So, Sean,
Hey.
welcome to the BTS Creative Academy podcast. This is, give a little hey to the audience.
How's it
if
going,
everyone's
everybody?
out there.
It's very nice to be here.
So, this is the first episode of season 6.
Fantastic.
And I'm very pleased to have you as a guest on that first episode.
I'm very honored to be here.
No, thank you very much for taking your time whilst on a break in London on holiday.
True, yeah. We're just enjoying coming back from Fringe, and I got some time to finally get a breather down and everything like that.
Right, yeah, because that's where we met. We met on the Royal Mile of the Edinburgh. Of Edinburgh.
Yeah, of Edinburgh.
Of Edinburgh.
In the hustle and bustle
of
everybody flyering and trying to get people to come see their show.
Yeah, and I was really pleased at this opportunity to see you again, because your street interview that I did with you was one of the last street interviews I did.
Right.
And one of my microphones died.
Oh,
so
really?
You have me talking
Uh-huh.
as I've gone through and reviewed it, but not you.
Oh my gosh. But I'm giving it. I'm giving the face.
So you're giving the face, you're filling me with all this wisdom, but yet
When it's not picking up.
It's not picking
Oh,
up.
that's funny.
So we've got the video there, we've got the memory, but now we can revisit. And as we get into this, I've got a little tradition that we start these with.
Sure.
So you ready to join me?
Yeah.
Just do a 3, 2, 1 clap, and then we're in. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go, and we're in.
And we're off at the races.
And we're off. So
Yeah.
we'll. I was thinking a nice place to start this conversation is where we left off. Do you remember?
Sure.
Do you remember your passing message to me?
I remember, and I talked about love a lot, and whether that's like the love of your craft, the love of your partner, the love of the earth, wherever you find that place of joy and wanting to contribute yourself to, I think is the real key to it all. This little journey we're all experiencing as human beings, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a hard, oppressive world sometimes, but I think if that's your North Star, you have a pretty good head on your shoulders, and I think you can move about in a way that not only serves you as a person, but is serving your fellow man.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've found that myself recently. It's strange. I managed to go through my whole life with not coming to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to get to a point of 40, and it was only recently I started to question these things. I started to go like, what is the purpose and meaning behind it all? And I started looking at a little bit of different religions and things like that, and trying to be more open-minded about stuff. And the good message that comes across with a lot of these different religions is all that comes from a place of love.
Yeah, of treating your neighbor appropriately and things like that. And it's funny because there's an actress of mine, Christina Ho. She's from California, and I saw just a lot of great things coming into her life. And she has such an optimistic and light personality, and it seemed to make sense. But I was like, hey, like, what's your secret? What's your ticket to being so magnetic with all these good things and good people in your life? And she was like, hey man, it's just love. Like, just lead with love. And I was a bit like, oh yeah, sure. Like, we've all heard that before. But as I've gotten older, I'm turning 30 in a few days, that started to click, and I started to notice once I started actively practicing that or having that in the forefront of my attention, or my intention rather, that's how I seem to have more success my way, whether that be monetary success or success within the growth of friendships and relationships and things of that nature, or my health, love for like my own self-help love, you know? And it's funny, you know, in the grand scheme of world history and these philosophers and so much that, you know, have been talked about and learned, these ancient fundamental principles such as this still seem to be resonating
today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for me, I guess things changed for me when I started to look more towards gratitude. And I think gratitude and love are so closely linked.
Yes.
I think the two of them come together very nicely. Gratitude, I think, leads to love.
Yes.
But for me, that is 100% where my life changed, is when I started fulfilling that, when I started not looking at myself and what I want. And it's very hard in this world to come away from that, isn't it? I think
certainly.
we're kind of with our schooling system. I think we're kind of taught to be that way.
Yeah.
I want this. I need that. And
for many of us, it could be even a survival tactic.
yes,
Where I know everybody else wants a bit of something, and if I don't look out for myself or go get mine, I'm out of luck. Or
Yes.
you know, I'll have the short end of the stick if I don't prioritize myself in such a manner.
But as soon as you move away from that, as soon as you start giving,
Yep.
it's amazing how the receiving comes back.
Yeah, it's so funny because gratitude really is such a core thing, and I have a few traditions myself within my acting, within my day-to-day, where on the days of the show, as the audience is coming in and I could hear the hustle and bustle, I could hear the rumblings of audience members sitting down and chatting amongst themselves, I start saying out loud quietly, thank you, thank you for that I'm here, thank you that these are my cast members, thank you that they're ready to receive me. You know, just a quick like sprouting it off and getting that snowball rolling of good feeling. I do that in the shower sometimes, where I'm showering and if I have a thought or I have something I'm looking forward to that day, and just something in me is like, be thankful for this thing to look forward to. Being thankful for this opportunity that came to you, or this, you know, this little gift that was given, whether it was the day before or the morning of. But gratitude is a wonderful, wonderful element of it all.
It is, and I found it particular. So you're an actor,
Yes.
a writer, director, musician.
Yeah, I do a little bit.
Yeah, you dabble in
dabble.
different creative fields.
Yeah.
See, for me, when I saw myself doing all of that, most of those things, like acting, writing, directing, not musician, that I never found a connection with music in that sense. But whenever I was doing the acting in particular, I couldn't find a space for being grateful because there's so much of putting yourself out there and trying to get the parts and trying to connect with people. Rejection,
you know, comparison.
It feels like you're in a constant world of competition.
Right.
So you're like, you don't even get that headspace or that moment to go, I'm grateful for this.
Right.
Or I should try and practice gratitude. So how have you found a space to do that?
I've done a lot of inner work. You know, I've gone through blue spells, as many people do. And I'm at a place in my life where when I get the short end of the stick, or an opportunity falls flat, or I'm wronged or treated in a not nice way, I do come from a place now where something activates in me where I think, well, how do I win in this situation? You know, this didn't go my way, or this might be an uphill battle, or this person was a big jerk to me on the street and he doesn't know who I am, or whatever. Instead of relishing and holding this loss or holding this shortcoming close, and now I'm carrying that with me, how do I reframe this where I walk away with a bit more autonomy, more strength, as if, you know, I control a bit of my reaction to it all. A lot of it comes from, you know, being a comedic person, so I make little jokes and make myself laugh in that way. As far as acting goes, the audition is a big element of our career, and it could be a really daunting part of it for a lot of people, because it is, I'm trying to get the job, please like me, right?
Yes.
And
you're constantly trying to force that image of yourself and that persona for the job that you're trying to get.
Totally, and
there's so much weighs on it, doesn't
They're seeing hundreds of actors that day, maybe. Some people might be texting, or they're looking at the headshot instead of looking at the performance, you know, and a lot of things may not be like working in your favor perception-wise. But now I've come to a place of, this is my opportunity to act today. This 5 minutes of them allowed me in their space, rather than do my song and dance, do you like me? Now it's more, this is my opportunity to have fun with this material. And regardless of what they want or what they're looking for, and, you know, hopefully it aligns, but this is the opportunity for me to do what I love the most, and to allow the room to fade away and immerse myself in the little scene with the audience. There's nothing I hate more than the self-tape. I cannot do the self-tapes, but that is a more uphill battle.
It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about self-tapes, that I've got a self-tape to do for tomorrow, and I don't look forward to it in any way, shape, or form.
No way. And sometimes I spend an hour on a self-tape when you have those 5 minutes, so you better make that count.
Yes.
And I find I'm so much more comfortable.
It really is one shot with a self-tape. Whereas when you're in the room, you've got that opportunity to engage with the director if the director wants to.
Right.
So you might walk into a room and audition, and the director goes, no, thank you, not today.
Yeah.
Very quickly, that happens.
It does happen.
But also on the same turn, the director may say to you, just take a second, pause for a minute. I'd like you to think about your pacing. I'd like to change this up this way or that way, and you've got an opportunity to do something different. Self-tape, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't, and I think as actors, we also sometimes we're so head on to finishing the self-tape or doing the self-tape, we don't think to ask those questions of ourselves of how is my pacing, or is this the right choice, or because we've done the homework and now we're just trying to get it on tape.
Yeah.
I have a little thing that I do now, and I wouldn't recommend it for most actors, but when I apply on stuff digitally through Backstage, Actors Access, and these various actor databases, I don't send the self-tape when asked. When they ask for a pre-screen. If they ask me personally, hey,
Pre-screen.
yeah, a pre-screen is when you apply to the part, they will have the sides and they say, please supply the self-tape along with your application.
Okay.
And I typically don't do that. I kind of wait for them to say, hey, we received your application, we would like that self-tape.
Yes.
Because sometimes if they see you and you're not even a fit, they won't even bother looking at the self-tape and whatnot. And more so often than not, I found, at least in New York, they'll say, hey, we're actually doing in-person auditions. Would you rather come in than send a self-tape? And that's when I feel I'm at my most powers, because they can see me, they can see what actor I am as I walk in. I've been acting for over 25 years, I do my work, and I'm a excitable collaborator. So they're not only getting my version of the scene, but they're getting the actor that's coming in with that, and how they speak to a collaborator, how they take up a room, if they have the charisma to own the room or to be magnetic, that you want to keep looking at them instead of looking at the headshot and things like that. So sometimes it's
you've got to play the game a bit and be a bit strategic, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to think of this like a business.
a bit, and you got to bet on yourself a bit. So sometimes I bet on myself a little bit where I'm like, well, if they liking the look and they think the resume speaks for itself, if they want the self-tape, I'll give it to them. But because it is a little daunting and it could be a little hard sometimes, I don't automatically send it unless they really, really want it, and cross my fingers, and a lot of my most recent parts have come because of this. They say, hey, we're actually holding callbacks and whatnot. We would rather you come in if you can do that, and I'm ready to come in, but in my best work.
That's interesting as well, like going back to that business, treating this like a business. I think there's something in sales of not giving everything. I spent a lot of time in sales, and if you give everything, there's nothing for them to want.
Right.
So if you give the resume, you give the pre-screen, you give the self-tape, you give 10 headshots of every different look.
Yeah.
They've got no questions about it.
Right.
There's no no
good.
intrigue, is there? There's no there's simply
So if there's like
no
a little
wanting.
element missing, they'll be like, well, there's something more we can learn here.
Yeah, so it makes them look. And even if they look and don't like what they see, at least they're looking.
At least they're looking, and they got a little interest, and now they're talking amongst themselves. Well, we want to see a bit more. That's very interesting. And also, isn't there something a little bit seductive about that too?
Dating?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit like dating,
Yeah.
I guess, in some respects as well. If you were dating someone and you gave everything on the first date, what more is there?
They can walk away and be like, well, I seen all what I can see.
I can
know?
see everything I can see. There's nothing left for me here. So yeah, that's. I think we're coming up with a really clever analogy.
Yeah, this is pretty fun.
To look at it.
It's pretty cool.
Let's look at this like we're doing sales. Let's look at this like
Because we are the products, essentially.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then look at this like we're sales and dating.
Yeah.
That's all this game kind of comes.
And
down
also,
to
like,
it.
what fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Because for me, why I moved away from acting, I'll always love acting, and I think I'll always go back to it. But I'm not.
And that's the great thing about it too. I tell all the actors I meet who've left it, I say, hey, if you ever want to go back to it, we always need somebody from every age, every demographic, size. They're waiting for you when you're ready to give your talents.
Yeah, there is no expiration date on this, is there? There's no I'm going to stop now and then that's it. You can take a break for a while.
Yeah.
Or you can even try and pursue it in a different way whilst pursuing other things.
Very true.
So I still have my agent. I still get the occasional self-tape come through, and I'll still do them.
Yeah.
But there's no active participation on my part making that happen.
Right.
Because I felt for me, I was hitting my head against the brick wall.
Yeah, and you gotta do what's best for you.
And I couldn't find anything that fitted me or worked for me or excited me.
Yeah.
As well.
I could hear that a little bit sometimes too. When you don't know, when you either don't have the right representation, or depending on just the times that we live in, the stories that are being pitched out there. Sometimes it could be a lull within, where you fit or where the industry thinks you fit.
Yes,
so
yes,
certainly
because their judgment on you,
right.
And that was a huge moment of realization, actually, realizing that I'm putting my life into the hands of others.
Yeah,
and I was like, whoa, that's not what I'm here for.
Right,
that's
right.
Not that. This is not how I want. I've done that for 20 years, and I've come to that conclusion that I'm giving my decision to others. I don't want that for the next 20.
Yeah, and when you know what you want from your career, there's even more power in that too.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to step out of this space because I know this is not going to ultimately fulfill me. Let me dedicate all this time and energy to a space where I feel, this is how I want to spend my time, the stories I want to tell, and the people I want to collaborate with.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how acting. So you're predominantly in New York.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So
Native New Yorker.
You're a New Yorker.
Uh-huh.
Were you born and bred there?
Born and bred there. Born in Brooklyn Hospital. Lived my whole life. I've been acting since I was 4 years old, and I've been acting like the work started when I was around 5 years old, and that's filming in Brooklyn and the Bronx, doing stage work off Broadway in Manhattan. Sometimes going to New Jersey or nearby states because filming can take you anywhere. And I've acted my entire life. I took a little break in high school because I thought it would inform me more to have like a more traditional public school experience than a performing arts school experience.
Yeah.
And I felt something was missing. And I thought it was religion. And I went back into the church and I went to do these different things. And it wasn't until I did plays again in school where I was like, this is what it is. This is what's filling that cup. And my flowers, sprouting again. It must be, maybe I needed that break to
have that realization.
To really hone the fact, this is what I want. And it wasn't just like...
Because when you're in it for the first time and you enjoy whatever it is you're doing, you don't necessarily fully understand what that's giving to you.
Especially if you're a child. You're just playing and everything. And it came to a point in middle school, I was filming every day and rehearsing for a play while I'm in the middle of another play. So it was work. And which I loved, but I didn't connect with peers of my age and stuff like that. So there were aspects of life that I felt was unsung or I just didn't have a hold of. And I thought maybe I could reconcile with that with a break from acting. And, like I said, I got a little confused, like, something is empty here. Is it religion? Is it a sport? I tried to do sports. And it was all fun, and it was a great learning experience, and to open my mind up into worlds and into rooms I wasn't in before. But once I got back on stage, it felt like home.
Tell me about that first time then that you discovered acting and performing. How that felt when you were 4 years old.
Yeah.
What was that like at that time?
It really felt all like playtime because I started talking rather young. And I would memorize movies. And my dad showed me some rather mature movies: The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Blue Velvet, the Cujo.
Yeah, I experienced some of those films when I was young as well. And do you know what? To be honest, I don't think they did me any harm.
No, I agree the same way. And I think children are smarter than we think. So I can watch a violent western and recognize, well, these aren't real cowboys.
Yes.
And
I think we have to be aware. I think different children are different.
Yes.
So some children are going to be
more susceptible
to the violence than others.
Yeah.
But for me, it's those movies. My granddad showed me movies like that late at night on a Saturday night when I slept over at my grandparents, and they really did have a massive effect on my creativity and opened my mind and broadened my horizons. And it sparked something in me, a love for movies.
I think movies are my bread and butter. That's my passion. And the playtime really sparked with, I would ask for movie soundtracks for my birthday or for a little gift. And I would play like fighting the make-believe baddies, to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack and the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. And I would memorize monologues or like the final line before he pulls the trigger kind of moments. And my parents put me in an acting school thinking I would make friends out of it. But after a showcase, that's when agents and managers approached my parents and were like, "Hey, that's the real deal. And if he wants a career, we're interested. I'm sure the people who are waiting to talk to you are interested. But that's something. There's something there that's outside of playtime. That's like he knows how to take direction and he knows how to land on his mark, and and I guess live in the truth of it all, even so young." So it was that little acting school where you just do little vignettes and little musical scenes. That I found so much joy in the escapism, where I don't have to be Sean. I could just be, these characters, and I could hold them separately and know that this is just complete, utter make-believe for the enjoyment of the audience and enjoyment of me and my partner playing together.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you take from that experience of doing the drama school when you were young, the acting stuff at a young age? What do you take into that now that you're a professional actor in your adult life?
I think that contributes a lot to my directability, where clearly as an informed creative person now, I have my idea of how things should go, or what would serve scenes better, or what's a smarter choice, if you will. But what the director wants is what the director wants, and I'm fine saying, okay, if this is how you want it, it will work out however you want it, but I'm here to serve you and this thing. I'm a cog. We're all cogs in the machine to tell the story the way we want to, the way the visionary has it. So I think working at such a young age just contributes to my ability to drop the hold on what my opinion is sometimes when I'm not a creative force in it, to serve.
Because that is very difficult to do. I've found that very difficult to do.
With my sketch group, so I do comedy. That's where we met. Where I'm doing sketch comedy with a team. I do have my hands in the pot a little bit because I'm a writer in it, I'm a director in it, as well as an actor. And there are times where I do want to push a choice or an idea more because I just think it's a smarter choice or more theatrically satisfying choice. So that could go there, but that's different because I'm part of the creative team in the room crafting it rather than hired to serve the story or do the job in that way. So I think a lot of just learning those different tricks and those little theater games just helped me understand I'm here to say yes and in the moment. You know what I mean? Without ego, if possible.
Because performers have got the biggest egos going.
Oh yeah,
let's not deny it. It drives us, doesn't it? In some senses, I think the best of us have to learn to tame it. Yeah, we have to take a moment and go, it's not.
Take a step back. It's not worth it.
It's not working for me here, or it's gonna disrupt someone else's creative vision. Like you said, at the end of the day. I've been in some things that people have said, why did you make those choices? Why did you act like that? And I said, well, because the director asked me to.
Right.
Because it was their thing.
Yeah, there's times where I had another vision of how I wanted to act. And a lot of times that happens when you walk on set for the first day. You do all this work.
All this preparation.
And when you walk on set and you're like, hey, so here's my idea of the character. He comes from a blue collar background, he does this, and the director's like, well, actually, we're gonna have it so he's rich and he doesn't have to work a day of his life. And you're like, okay, then we'll move forward and we'll adjust to that.
So you've got to be adaptable, but then I think as well of some actors like De Niro. You'll never hear of the greats being told to adjust what they're doing to the director's vision. So how do we find that place between being flexible and adaptable and going with the director, the vision, the person whose vision it is supposedly, and keeping yourself as a strong, independent artist? Yeah. How do you find that balance between the two?
It happens, I think, with the relationship with you and the director, or you and the higher collaborators. Because if it's a closer relationship, you have the freedom to talk a bit closer and fight for your stuff a little bit more, and not feel like you're the outsider stepping out of your lane.
Yes.
And every job
that's a really good one. It's in the relationships, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's in what you build before, if you're acting or on stage, before you go on set, before you go in the room and do the craft.
Because it's your first day, and you come with all your preconceived notions of what you want to do, and you really want to fight for it, but it's not them. You're gonna have a harder time going with these folks who have pre-planned and pre-talks, but if you're part of those pre-talks, or if they worked you in the past and they know like you're gonna collaborate with them and you can communicate in a certain way, then you have a little bit more freedom to bring a bit more of your voice in there, not only as, you know, a little cog, but one that can help turn things in a bigger sense.
So I guess there's a lot of understanding of what level are you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What level are you? What's your place there? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's understanding, what position you're in. If you're there as an actor, which I've been many times, there for a day.
Yeah.
You turn up, you do a job if you're there for a day. But if you're more involved, if you're a bigger part of the cast, a bigger part of the team, and you've got that relationship built with the director, then there should be this flexibility.
Then you have more flexibility to do it. And I think with acting too, it also goes from part to part, as far as like how you collaborate or how you apply yourself to these roles. I'm trained in method from Lee Strasberg and Meisner, from college and other independent coaches and some other techniques. And not every technique serves every part or every job. And that's part of the excitement that I kind of like too, is what kind of preparation is needed. Because you could do some preparation and you're like, hey, I'm punching my head against the wall trying to work this out, when that technique might not serve you, and it might be as simple as asking one question of, well, where are you coming in from before the scene? And just knowing, oh, well, I went to the bathroom and I'm coming to the scene, or I was grocery shopping and I had to walk home because I missed the bus. And just knowing that little additional information may be the spark emotionally to get you in there, rather than the extra work of, well, this is my father, father, and we have this relationship and all that other stuff. So I think part of the fun also is finding what's going to be useful, and sometimes it's less than what you think. It's whatever gets you emotionally ready there, because at least in my opinion, you don't want to spend 20 minutes getting yourself prepared to live in the truth of it all. If it's as simple as just knowing who you're talking to, that's your ticket in. Is it knowing what the atmosphere of the room smells like, and that's what gets you there to drop the set and live in the moment? So that also kind of excites me, as far as like the newness of it all, and what will I find to help me drop it and live in the moment and leave the stage behind.
There's definitely something in the asking questions.
Yeah, I love the questions.
And the questions, I think sometimes us actors, we can feel a bit intimidated to do that. We can feel like it's not perhaps our place to ask the questions, but actually it's one of the most important tools that we've got.
If anything, we're thinking about some of the questions everybody else necessarily isn't, because we hold these characters so personally. So while the director may not care like what they have for breakfast, maybe you as an actor know, well, if I didn't have breakfast, how's that affecting my energy and my irritability? Is that why he's so irritated in the scene? You know, like, sure, like, I know I'm being all like, using these examples, but like, let's say a scene is like partners are angry at each other. Is it really the underbelly of like how this partner's talking to each other, or is it these subtle elements that is just human behavior? And I think that's where our job comes in, as asking these little specific questions that no one else is really thinking about, but because it's us in their shoes, in their skin, we gotta care a little bit more about these minute things that inform the bigger story.
So as an actor, what do you care most about bringing to a role?
Well, truth is important, and comfort and chemistry with who I'm working with. The listening is super important, and I find when I walk off stage and I don't remember what I did in that scene, I think that's a good sign, because that means I was actively paying attention and listening to what my partner was giving me and truthfully responding in that moment. And there are times where you think, the way I did that tonight was not the way I've done it any of the other nights, but it was probably coming from a place of, that felt like the right thing to do there. That's what the character would have done with how he felt that night. Rather than, well, today I'm going to do it different. Because not necessarily, especially in theater, you don't want to, you craft it so it's kind of the same show every night, but sometimes you can't help it. And the response is a little bigger or a little bolder or a little more timid. However it is, when it happens and you didn't expect it to come out, that means probably you were listening a bit more actively, and there's a truer sense coming out of that line delivery than how you crafted it to be performed every night.
I think you're talking about a place of flow, aren't you?
Flow, yeah.
You're talking about that place of finding complete comfort within the moment that you are. I find I get relaxation,
but readiness,
yeah. And whatever energy the room is bringing, you move with it. You know the words.
Don't fight the energy.
You know the words.
Yeah.
You know the direction of what you should be doing.
Oh yeah.
But there are slight nuances that happen, slight pushes and pulls. That if you're in flow, you go with it and you bring something more and something different. And that's one of the things I love about theatre, is that you can go and see a play 5 nights in a row, and each time it can be completely different.
Yeah.
If the actors have found that place of flow,
found that spontaneity.
But then when you've been to flow, that's when I had those places of I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, exactly. But that means you weren't up in your head being cerebral about it. That means you were living, truthfully, of listening and reacting appropriately to what your gut, what your heart is telling you.
Do you have any different love for theatre or film?
They're different beasts.
They are, yes.
I say film is my passion just because that's my favorite medium as an audience member. I love what the medium can do, using the elements of music and specific cutting and editing, and just the way those stories can be told and the spectacle that can bring. I think it's soaring. It's the greatest magic trick on earth. But there's nothing that compares to the live theater experience. What the actors give and what the audience gives, and how that affects night to night. I think that's super fun. And the preparation time is vastly different. With film, sometimes you get to rehearse, but sometimes you get the script that day. Actually, page 2 and page 3 are cut, and these are the different pages, because we found this is just a better way to tell the story. And then you have to learn it and trust that, that we're gonna find it together. Whereas theater, you have 6 months of preparation to finally craft what it should be, and to theoretically give the same show every night. And like we talked about, there is that spontaneity there, but all that prep work is there to ensure that everybody has a similar experience, and it's more crafted in that way. So they're vastly different mediums, I find, but I think just because me as a viewer, film takes me to such places, I'm a film guy. I love the movies.
What is it about movies? Let's go back to when you were younger and you were discovering the old westerns and things with your dad. What was it about the movies that made you go, I don't just want to be the audience now. I want to contribute and be part of that world. Is there a specific moment for you that things changed?
I think it's a bit of the escapism to anywhere there. As a writer, I'm big on genre. So I love fantasy and sci-fi and nautical stories and horror and the crime and the specificities of like the particular genres and those private rooms and far off worlds away from our traditional 21st century living. I think that's really what it is that gets me so hyped, and that's probably why I give a lot of a little extra brownie points to films that may not be so good, but the concept is so out there, or the style is so out there.
You can recognize elements in it that did work. You know, sometimes with a film, not every element comes together.
It happens.
Sometimes with theatre, with any creative thing, in fact, there are so many different bits involved that it doesn't always gel. When it does, it's magic.
And it may not gel with everyone. Like, for instance, I was watching Django Unchained, one of my favorite movies. It was on TV in the Airbnb, and the violence is so cartoony, and the period aspects of that slave era, the violence is painfully truthful. So it has these elements of utter horrific truth and, bold, vibrant, pulpy, gunplay and spectacle for the fun element of it all. And for some people, either of those schools may not work with them. The violence may be too harsh and may feel like it's taking advantage of that period if it's too truthful, and we don't need to see that anymore. And some people may be critics of the cartoony action, because why do we need the blood splurting like a geyser, in this way, It goes from taste, but I think having that freedom in film, allowing that freedom to really turn the dials as much as we'd like, is just so much fun. I think as artists, and at least the artist I am, and I give such props to artists with, they want to speak to disenfranchised voices, They want to speak to utter truths or things of today's age, or teach a lesson. I would love to teach a lesson in my work, but I don't think that's what I want to do with my specific voice. I'm an artist who wants to follow the fun. And whether it's telling the truth, if that's awesome, cool, or if we're playing an utter fantasy absurdism for the comedic aspects of it, or for the I don't know how to put this, the abstract aspects of it. I think the fun is what I want to follow, and maybe because I started so young.
Yeah.
So the foundation comes from playtime rather than poetry, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, and you can understand the poetry and you can pull elements of that in, but it doesn't. I guess if that's all you were looking for, you could just look to become a documentary maker.
Right.
Yeah, or you could look to become a teacher. But I guess at the end of the day, as artists, we want to kind of entertain.
Yeah.
In some way. And yes, it's very noble to say, all right, let's take some of my entertainment and try and do something with it. But you can also do that with entertainment.
Oh, for sure.
You can also,
and I think the best art can do that. It elevates the truth a little bit.
Yes, and I'm going to go to something that people, I think many would just look at it and go, that's pure entertainment. Again, we're going to go back to our original meeting, The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Yes. Pure entertainment on the face of it.
One of my favorites.
Yes,
ever.
like that film changed my life. Okay, but pure entertainment. How did it change my life? It started making me question things. It started making me question the system.
And it frames it in this fantasy world where robots rule the earth, and Neo's plugged in, and it feels so far away. But the depth, if you peel the layers back, the elements of truth that almost subconsciously it's giving you, is remarkable. I mean, it was directed by.
And you might not even know it at that moment when you're watching the entertainment. It's when you take a step back. It's when
the credits roll, you look to your friends, you go to the bar, you take a drink, and then you start like, well, this is what they're
hold on a minute, this is quite relevant in the world in which we live.
Right.
Yeah, we might, it could be pushing things too far to say we're plugged into a different reality. But
it's the oversaturation.
It's the oversaturation. It's the concepts of the hierarchy being in charge and the mundane life. And
can we get out?
Can we get out?
Are we satisfied with the holographic, state?
Yeah. And what are we willing to do to break free from this reality, which we're pre-programmed to all just accept? Yeah.
Right.
So and then and then you go, and then you start meeting people, and you're like, so you're a red pill or a blue pill kind of guy. Like,
so your core is being plugged in right now, and for how things are. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Amazing example. Yeah. But I think that's one of the most prolific examples of it because it is so high fantasy, but it's it has opened so many people's minds of, well, who am I and what is this?
And what a question for us to all be asking in this day and age.
Yeah.
I think this is a very important moment for us all to be waking up.
Yeah. There are so many elements, whether it's capitalism or whether it's, ultra, high authoritative aspects of it. There are things in our face to distract us. And this is just going back to the Matrix. We're in that time where it's important to look up. To ask, the algorithm's giving me this, but is that what I want? Why is this telling me why is it telling me this is what I want? Or this is the enemy.
Why is this feeding you this information? Why is this feeding you this? I think one of the social media things that I've got drawn into in the past has been Twitter, or we now call it X, don't we? But the algorithm there, it seems to be pre-programmed to stimulate some kind of violence or some kind of emotional,
a strong emotional reaction.
And then you get drawn into it, and
then you read the comments, and you're like, these are the worst takes I've ever heard.
And before you know it, you've lost 30 minutes of your life.
Yeah. And you're upset. Because you're thinking, how can anybody believe this or say this or treat people this way?
And for some strange reason, you go back in.
Yeah.
You go back in again and again and again, and I feel like I had to cut off an addiction.
Yeah.
To come away from that. And I've managed to find a place with social media where I feel like I'm in a healthy balance, but that also seems a weird thing to to
have to work to get there.
Work towards.
And
yeah.
consider that, I think, as creatives, we think a little bit more proactively. Imagine some of the other average Joes out there who are content, who are just scrolling and not thinking about how much time they're spending on it, or not thinking about why this type of content is being put in being fed to them in the forefront. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost mind controlling, isn't it?
It's a little spooky
with what we're being given, and especially to we're seeing a younger generation come up. I've got 2 young teenagers, and they get quite heavily consumed.
And do you find they're asking questions? Do you find they're taking everything with a grain of salt, or they're taking things by the truth?
I feel like
do they want to break away from it and go outside more?
No, I feel like my children are being quite good at asking questions of it. They're at that stage of like, hold on, maybe take a step back. Hold on, why is it feeding me all this information? We're having quite similar chats actually with my kids.
Very good.
But I do see a lot of other kids that are just purely consuming, purely being fed the algorithm. And who's deciding the algorithm?
Yeah. And are they in your best interests?
Whose best interest is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting deep now.
This is the conversations I like.
We're going deep. So, how can we, with the stuff that we've got in this world to our disposal, we've got the social media, the information being fed, how can we find a way to break free and contribute?
I think that's where the artist's job is. The artist's job is to reflect the times and reflect the inner lives of people. And whether that's through music or painting or film, theater, poetry, dance, even abstract stuff, as in there was a piece I saw where somebody was filling cracks and potholes in parts of the building that were decayed away with Lego pieces to make them whole again. And that's a strange form of public art, if you will, but that's a way of asking, well, why did somebody go out of the way to fill this break in the building? It wasn't needed. The building obviously has such a strong structure, it's not going to fall down, but it's just a bigger, I guess, showcase of, are they helping build this world? The folks that are supposed to be filling the potholes? Why this artist feel he has to go out of the way to repair? And I think it's maybe our job is to repair the disarray, the dysfunction, the lack of empathy, the butting heads of groups, and showcase the lived experience, the lived emotion, whether it's right down the middle or whether it's an abstract form like a Pollock painting. There is emotion in there. And what does that mean? And if that can resonate and penetrate through someone who maybe needed that to ask the right question or feel a certain way that they didn't feel before, I think that's our job here. And whether we are able to use that platform to do that, more power to the folks who can do that, because I just know that's not my medium and that's not where I want my work showcased necessarily. But I think that is the job of the artist to take advantage of the times and how people will take in these voices to wake them up a little bit.
And so, are you doing that? I've seen a bit of your comedy. I've seen a bit of your comedy group. Remind me, what was the comedy group called?
We're called I Mostly Blame Myself, or IMBM for short.
IMBM. And so with that, on the face of it, pure entertainment.
On the face of it, pure entertainment. Yeah, but
is there something in there that you're trying to make a change?
Oh yeah, I think just because of my lived experience as a man of color in America, I'm a Caribbean man, so there's a lot of diaspora and complex identity going on there, and also, I come from a love of satirical and British humor myself. I find great joy in the subtleties of truth within the absurd, So there's definitely, when I'm in the writer's room and when I'm pitching my stuff, there's elements of truth there that either are very obvious or a little something subtle, like you take the blue pill, you take the red pill. Are you gonna roofie my drink, Morpheus? And that's a joke. We laugh and we just move on. But it's out there. People are waiting at the bar to be predators and things like that, and we can laugh about it. But then that's a conversation you can bring outside the room and be like, man, that's pretty messed up. That it's such a thing. We all really recognize what that means. if he's gonna put do something with the pill and take advantage of Neo, right? So I think it's great fun, and also it's almost like putting sugar in the medicine, where it tastes good and it's funny and enjoyable, but you're learning a bit more, or an element of the real world that's a little bit dark or a little bit daunting is presented in a way where you can take it in.
I find with comedy, and the type of comedy that you do in particular, it gives us a moment of empathy. It gives us a moment to consider other views. It gives us a moment to consider what the world may look like. Like you say, we know it's there. We know that there's people out there spiking people's drinks, but we don't necessarily talk about it all the time.
Right.
And so that when we're seeing it within the comedy, it's just doing something in our mind, going, oh yeah, that is out there. That is something that we.
And that is pretty bad.
And that is pretty bad. Like we've just it. We're laughing at it, but it's bad, and we can recognise that.
And I think that's where a lot of the learning comes from, because some folks don't take too kindly to like message.
No one wants to be told.
Yeah.
No one wants.
So,
I don't think anyone actually wants to be told
like this is wrong.
This is
you
wrong.
Should know
this
that.
is right. And doing it through entertainment,
and for them to like learn it themselves in a way, I think there's great fun in that, and you give power to the audience again to make that conclusion themselves.
Yeah, that's so. There is so much meaning in entertainment.
Yeah.
Isn't
Oh
there?
yeah, of course.
And so much value in entertainment. We started this conversation saying that actually, no, you're just doing the entertainment thing, but actually you are trying to deliver a message.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the entertainment, the comedy sketch shows, because I feel like comedy sketch shows have disappeared a little bit. They were quite big they were actually
huge in the 90s.
In the 90s.
In the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what that was like in America, but over here, the 90s was full of comedy sketch shows. And they've sort of faded away.
Each night I've been watching Benny Hill, low key, and
like
TV show, proper British, way back when. There was a fair amount of comedy in America. Mr. Show was a big one. And one of my favorite groups was called The Whitest Kids You Know.
Right.
Just these, American teen and early adults, this absurdist comedians. I talked to a comedian the other day, and I told him like the school I come from, and I come from Mighty Python and Whitest Kids You Know. Those are my like.
Mix the two together.
Yeah, those are my big champions, and I want to build that bridge.
Obviously, Monty Python is huge in the UK. What is that like in America?
I think most people just either know Spam-A-Lot or Holy Grail. But I love Flying Circus. I love Meaning of Life and Life of Brian. So, and just because like that's the kind of humor I like, so I gotta go down the rabbit hole and feed myself more of that. Because the satire is so funny, and they give it to you straight. One of my favorite bits, I told all my friends, is the argument sketch, where a man walks into a place of business and goes, "Hi, I'd like to have an argument." And they're like, "Oh, room 4. So he goes into room 4, like, "This is the argument room." He goes, "Yes, it is." He goes, "Hey, it's £5 or whatever." And then they start an argument, and then the arguer, who they pay, goes, "Okay, that was 5 minutes." And then the person was like, "No, it wasn't." He goes, "Yes, it was." He's like, "No, it wasn't." He's like, "It certainly was." And then they start arguing about whether the time is up or not. And like for me, I'm like, this is so funny. It's so simple and absurd, but I don't know. It just tickles me in the right way. You don't need too much of it.
Yes.
And then a sketch show like The Whitest Kids You Know, it's just absurd American humor. So it's a bit brash. And crude, a little misogynistic, a little love of the violence, the danger there's a danger element I really like. So I try to bridge those gaps of like a little bit dangerous, a little bit brash, but also a little bit highbrow. Yes. I appreciate highbrow humor, and humor that doesn't alienate, and crude humor can alienate if it's too gross or too violent or too not nice to other groups. And I think if the sketches is like highbrow enough, and we all understand like the concept of like an argument, so we can all understand how them having an argument, whether the argument session is over, everybody can enjoy that bit a bit more, and don't feel like it's alienating them. So I appreciate that within satirical humor as well.
Talking about alienating particular groups, and going back to Monty Python. Monty Python was one of the first comedy groups that heavily got targeted with trying to be cancelled. The church, when they brought out,
yes,
when
they
brought out
did.
the Holy Grail, the church tried to close it. They didn't even see. It's clear if you watch some of the old interviews and some of the old conversations. It's clear the people against it hadn't even watched the movie.
Right.
You know, they just decided, oh, you're making a film about...
You're putting on imagery up there.
You're putting on imagery, you're talking about my religion, therefore I don't like it or want it and I want to ban it. And, you know, that's the worst place to come from, a place of complete...
of uninformedness and just
complete,
hearing the clickbait, if you will, of it all.
Yeah, and so that still happens today.
Oh, easily.
That still happens, you know, there was a thing recently... I'm thinking back to early 2000s, there was a comedy sketch called Little Britain. I don't know if you've heard of that one at all. It was huge in this country, but it did take the mickey out of different demographic groups, but it took the mickey out of all different groups.
Yeah. And themselves, I'm sure.
and
I think that's also part of the ticket. If you can beat on yourself, and if you are like Family Guy is playing a lot. They kind of take it all out of on everybody. Just a little pinch here and there.
Just pinch here and there,
you know?
and they take a look at themselves as well.
Yeah.
But now there's this thing at the moment of they were talking about bringing it back, and they were like, oh, I don't think this age is right for that anymore. And it's like, should we really silence our voices? Should we really stop the comedy?
Right.
Because some people feel a little bit sensitive.
I certainly come from a place of, and again, I'm American. I believe in freedom of speech. I do think punching down and humor that like makes oppressed groups the butt of the joke for their oppression, or in the same way that they are oppressed in the real world, isn't great and doesn't make for good comedy.
I guess it's a cheap shot.
Yeah, it's a cheap shot. But if you could find a way to do it right, there's a way to do it right. There's a few moments in the group where we've had a discussion. And I've said, hey, let's take 5 minutes just to think about how to get this joke right. Because I think this joke is worthy of landing here. But how we're going about it seems a little punchy down. So how do we do that? I like to play with those dangerous lines. I wrote a sketch called Racist Whispers. And it's the break room in an office. And the office is like, hey... how is everybody's weekend? You know, they're just making conversation. And one guy says, oh, it was awesome. I met my wife's fiance. He's a great guy. You know, he's really funny. He's black. And he's a chef. And they're like, oh, he's a chef? But oh, wow. And then like, our African-American member is like a little bit, okay. And then one other person's like, I'm going to order some food. Does anybody want anything? Oh, I could eat. What are you in the mood for? I could do Indian food. Indian doesn't sit really well with me. Well, how about Chinese? Can we do Chinese? So like they're whispering the demographics, and they're not necessarily saying anything racist or offensive, but it's like, their tone like they don't want to say, and like the African American, it's like you guys can say the racist is okay, and then once they start saying like, oh, I love Swedish food, or like, have you seen what's the pot, or like, you know, they're naming all these, you know, traditionally white races or countries, and they say that no problem, right? So that's like a lot of the lines I like to play with, and I tell my other members because some people are, my biggest fear is that writers are afraid to write what they want to write. I am vastly interested in Eastern histories, ancient Egypt, that's African, but ancient Chinese and ancient Japanese history, because their history is so vast and their culture is so cool, as far as I'm concerned, as far as their sense of honor and their attire and how vast the reign has been in that particular era. And I've written myself a Japanese-inspired war epic, and I don't want any writer to feel like because they don't come from a certain place, it's not their place to write a story in that world or for those people. I think if you're writing for a culture or based on a culture that's not your own, you should do the right research. You should get some experts in the room, have somebody of that read it and make sure it's done respectfully and properly, just for your own sake, and to make sure it's done right. But the idea that someone of another demographic can't write something in the world of another culture is really distasteful for me, and I think it's writers.
I think it's the road to separation. The road
Right.
to division is to say you have to stay in this box and you have to stay in that box, and you can't cross-contaminate.
For sure.
You can't investigate and have a look over here because you're from there.
If I only played straight Puerto Rican parts, I would be I would be unsatisfied as an actor. A bit. I'm in this thing so I can to not be Sean and to empathize and take the skin of other human beings, because it's kind of that we're all the same, you know, despite our differences kind of story thing. That's the whole point of these performance arts, I find. So I do come from that place of like, a writer should write what they want to write. They should be smart enough to do the research to make sure that the writing they do is successful. And as far as comedy, I think there's great fun in playing on those dangerous lines. Be careful. And sometimes you try and you fail and it's distasteful and people don't like it, and you gotta recognize and you gotta apologize. But I don't think a person, you know, should be shunned for giving it a go.
I think this breaks into all areas of creativity, whether you're a writer, an actor, director, whatever you want to pursue doesn't have to be just what you know, just where you come from.
Right.
I think we should have the opportunity to look outside of ourselves.
And that allows us to be curious.
And that it allows us maybe a wider space for asking deeper questions. It puts us in a position, if you only look from the place in which you know and recognise, then maybe your questions have already been answered. And what are you contributing that's new?
Yeah.
Maybe if you're looking into other cultures and reaching out into other
There's
spaces,
something more you're trying to learn there. And I think that only shows that you're a curious, open-minded person who wants to, you know, just see a bit more, be a little bit more fuller, and look at the world a bit fuller.
So one of the things that towards my end of, like, when I was heavily pursuing acting, that I was getting frustrated with is that a lot of the casting calls that were coming through was asking about my sexuality and saying you can only play this part if you are gay.
Right.
And it's like, yes, it's a gay part, but I want to empathise and want to explore that within my art.
Right.
To play a gay part, but a lot of the casting calls are now saying no, they won't. The casting directors saying they don't want to look outside of what that part is,
which I find a little interesting. And to be fair, like we're straight men, so our experience as straight actors probably is different, you know, or certainly is different than homosexual actors.
And I think there's a space for like balancing the demographic from which we can pull the talent. Maybe there's been a period of time which different sexualities have struggled to get roles.
Yes, and so that's something very important to consider.
So the opportunity is wider.
Yeah,
for that now.
Totally very important to consider.
But then to close people down because of their sexuality, is just as bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's great, and I think love is love. We say love is love, and the same anxieties and troubles and hardships and journeys that romantic straight couples go on, gay couples go on, and we can see, you know, that within each other. Obviously, it looks different, and I think the individual journeys, you know, are different. So I can understand why they would prefer, you know, a gay actor, just because maybe they've walked with that their whole life and they could bring more of that truth, obviously. But I don't think that's merit to not see straight actors. You know what I mean? It's this is my opinion. This is all my opinion as a straight man.
And I think for us, but I strongly believe
it's like
through us talking through this, we can find some answers and some common ground. We can find some way to move forward without. I feel like the world of the arts are being closed down and suppressed, especially in the last 10 to 20 years. This whole thing of like cancel culture and saying, no, you can't do this because, you know, they have said it's not right. Yeah. So I think we need to find a way to deal with these things better than cancelling.
Oh, easily. And sometimes, because I tell my sometimes I'm the diva of the group, and sometimes I tell them, like, all publicity is good publicity, and with us in sketch comedy, like, it's comedy. We're not taking it seriously. We've seen the way people get canceled, and some people have done horrendous things, and we cancel them, but they're still getting work, and they're still getting endorsements and in all the aspects. Sometimes it looks a little bit different because, traditionally speaking, white men tend to be more forgiven after the cancellation than other demographics I've seen. So the cancellation aspect, I think, is very hearsay, internet, noise than real life, consequences sometimes. Sometimes. And also comparing somebody's tweets from when they're 15 years old to, a sexual assault allegation or, a fraud or whatever it is, they're completely different lines, but when we put them in the cancel culture bowl, they're all treated the same way, So there are aspects of cancel culture that I'm like, this is just like noise to just scare us a little bit.
To fear, to keep us in the
matrix.
To keep us in the matrix
and keep us from writing what we want to write or saying what we want to say.
Because I know so many actors and performers that are terrified to do what we're doing here, that won't do this because they are fearful that they say something that will stop them
getting a job. And that's a shame. All we can do is learn from each other and
learn from when we say things that are wrong.
Yeah, and then if it's and actions do have consequences. So let's say I say something in this interview and they're like, Sean, you're an asshole for saying this thing. You should know that only gays should play gay roles. And then you should have said gays like that or whatever it is. Then I have to own up and be like, well, okay. Let me do some. Let me take a moment. Let me reflect. Let me talk to some folks who are more informed than I am, or from that place, and I can get an objective outside conversation to reconcile and become a better person after this. But when we discommunicate and exile folks who haven't done anything too bad, who've said something a little off, or tweeted something very ignorant or racist from years ago, when their actions as people show they're not bigoted, maybe they were just trying to make a bad joke and times were different, or whatever excuse you want to make for their bad behavior is, people grow and change, and people aren't a soundbite, in my opinion. Yeah.
And I think that's the truest form of freedom, is to have expression of thought and feelings and words in which we say.
And I think it's in the conversation where people learn. Like let's say you were a bigot. Let's say we're having a conversation and your bigoted things come out, and I'm like, I don't agree with that. I'm gonna challenge you on this, and maybe it's a little aggressive or whatever. We finish the interview, you go home, you get in bed. That conversation is what gets your wheels turning, and then maybe you learn a little something just from being called out, or maybe from the internet saying something. And all we want is to grow so we could be 10% better tomorrow. I think. That's
10% is a big jump.
I'm trying to get good. I want to be good.
You'll go for the.
I'm trying to be a good dude.
See, I go for 1%. I look for 1% every
Even
day.
1%, yeah. Even that's growth. Even just saying, okay, well, I know
it's doable.
Maybe I shouldn't say that word. Maybe I shouldn't refer to them as that anymore. Even that. There's a great YouTube channel that me and my roommate, we have a strong disagreement as whether this is a good thing or not. It's called Jollibee. And what they do is they take a divisive argument or divisive concept, bring in 3 people from both sides of the argument, and then ask a series of questions, and whoever agrees with that question or that statement, they step forward, they have a little chit-chat, then the rest of the group steps forward and have the grander chit-chat. So there was one that was NRA, National Rifle Association in America, so gun owners in America, and mass shooting survivors. So they have 3 people who are carded members of this gun organization and people who were there during a mass shooting and survived it. And then they'll pose these questions or pose these statements. I think guns should be banned completely. And whoever agrees steps forward. I think every American should have a gun. And maybe 2 people from the NRA and 1 person from the survivors step forward. They have their little talk of why they feel this way, their experience, and then the rest of the group comes in together. And one of my roommates says this is not a good thing because the people with these extremist views or these hateful views, now they have a platform to talk their bad talk and get more people in that rhetoric. But I find it's in that full sit-down conversation with all spectrums of that opinion is where the growth is shown. or where the growth happens. Because now that extremist is forced to go up against the opposition, have their civil conversation, as civil as it could be. And I think that's where we learn. It isn't until we see the other side face to face and not the words in the tweets where we empathize, because we could see the whites in your eyes. And we could see there's a real human being there. That may not be from where you're from and may not have your lived experience, but by hearing that lived experience, now it's like, well, okay, I understand why he has a gun and why he's fighting for his gun, because he's expressed this fear or this experience that he has that feels that it's necessary. And then you empathize a little bit more with the other side, and then the other side empathizes with you, and then we all kind of can find a bridge together to move forward in a hopefully more harmonious way.
So someone told me once, very recently actually, is that you'll understand so much about a person or a demographic if you understand how they feel and why they feel. And that bringing those groups together and seeing the whites in their eyes, seeing they're human beings, you'll get a deep sense of understanding about why they feel the way that they do about their chosen subject, about the gun laws in America. And I wonder what it's like for you as an American, as a creative. What is it like within your country at the moment? Because it seems from an outside perspective it's very divisive. It seems like there's a line down the middle and you're either blue or you're red. You know, you're one or the other.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to us. Is it like that for you?
It could feel like that. I live in a very liberal city. I live in New York City, where, truthfully, people could be whoever they want. There are people who just wear green every day, and they're the green person, or they wear the costume. So as far as that goes, that's it's a bit as smelly as it is, and as expensive as it could be. As far as who you can be, it's a bit of a utopian aspect of it, because like you really could be whoever you want, and people just don't give a crap because they're trying to do their own thing. But it could be a bit divisive, especially in those Midland states who are a bit landlocked away from other experiences, who come from fundamentally heavy-handed, hyper-religious places where it's this and it's nothing else. This is the all-seeing, the all-saving, in a way. But I think, truthfully, most Americans, we feel trapped in this two-party system, and because there's no way out, because we've been fed and lied that the media only projects these two parties who are serving the same masters of capitalism and their donors. And it's just a matter of who they're appeasing to. Are they appeasing to, freedom for all, so we can charge all a little bit, or like, we know you're scared and we're fighting for your livelihood being taken away by the outsiders trying to influence you and your children. So now they're afraid of their children being raised a certain way that hasn't been passed down generation wise. It's all fear.
It's all fear-based control.
Fear-based control. I am independent. I'm a Green Party member, which means like the party I typically vote for and support is just the environmental party that wants to project peace and project fixing this environmental issues, because the oil people are in the politicians' pockets and the warmongers are in the politicians' pockets. And I think most Americans aren't on either side. I think we just feel it's one side or the other, and there's no way out. It's a bit matrixy in that regard. Based on who I've talked to, I have friends, and also sometimes it's a bit like, how do I put this? It's almost like some people find the other side so silly, they just want to lean heavy-handedly on the opposing side to stir that pot and get them strung up in ways.
And I don't think that helps.
No,
I don't think
that's just a selfish aspect. That's not a way to bring us together. That's just a way to amuse themselves and their friends.
I guess that brings them comfort. In doing that, in trying to stir the pot of the other.
Because they don't have any control over the powers that be.
Yeah, because you don't have any control over it. I noticed this thing about the other side is weird. at the moment.
Oh yeah, they're leaning on the weird aspect of it.
On the weird aspect, and I'm like, I don't. Whilst I agree with a lot of that side's philosophy, I'm like, I don't like that. I feel like you're leaning into that, stirring the pot.
It
and
is
you're
a
just
bit.
going to frustrate people, and you're not going to change.
Yeah,
you're not going to change any minds.
Because like I agree
doing
with
so.
you there. I do because like I saw that and I'm like, oh, that is funny. Because like
a lot of the things that are being
punks,
said,
the punks and the gays and the theater folks and you know, we were weird.
Yes.
And looked by our country, you know, a bit. And now that more people have been braver to live their true selves, now the tables have turned and we're putting the spotlight on them. Like, no, you guys are the weird ones because you're just, you know, you just want to be comfortable with your close-knit group and not learn about anything else. But, and I haven't even thought about this until you said it, it is a bit more stirring the pot and not even changing their minds.
Because all it would do, all it would do is frustrate and make them back off and go, I don't want to listen to you if you're calling me names.
Yeah,
that's essentially what you're doing.
It's true. I don't know the game more. It is essentially calling names, and like I guess it's the hurt people thing because like we've been called names, and they have some, and you know their political leaders use that tactic. So it's now like, oh, let's use the tactic against you. And while it's fun for the moment because we feel like we gained some power back by playing their game. By playing their game, we're not showing them our side and empathizing them and showing them why it's good to be on our side. I think that's how.
And there is an element of that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that there is.
So interesting.
There is an element of we're going to win this. I'm going to pronounce her name on this. Kamala,
yeah.
Is that the right pronunciation?
I'll be adding an I in there sometimes.
Harris.
Yeah.
Why don't we just call her Harris?
Yeah.
We'll call him Trump. We'll call her Harris.
Valid.
Like, there's that as well, isn't there? Going on. Like, why do we call her by her first name?
Because the ethnic aspects of the name, you know, I guess.
Yes,
and I don't want to say that's like what everybody thinks, but like it is interesting that we just call him Trump and we call her by the first name.
Yes.
But hey, I don't know. It's tricky times. It's confusing times in our country. Every election this is the election of a lifetime. This is the be all end all to fight for democracy and the safety of our country. But every 4 years.
But I feel, again from an outside perspective, it's really interesting in the UK because we feel a connection with America, with the United States, because we feel you're a culture that's very similar to us. You're a culture that has a big influence on our culture. Often, laws that get changed in America
follow suit
here. We see that a lot, and actually that goes back the other way as well. We're so close. We're like this. We're like the 51st state that's just like, or 52nd
family.
state.
We're like family.
Yeah, we are. We're like the
distant
cousins,
family,
distant cousins that you see every now and then.
Across the sea.
But we feel this closeness, and we watch what's going on, and I think a lot of us, it fills us with dread when these elections happen.
Oh my god! And you're just worried about how the other side's gonna go, like how that's gonna happen over there, because you know that's gonna influence the cultures here.
The cultures here, and it really does, and it does. We do see it, and we hear little sound bites of Trump saying things like, well, you'll never have to vote. If you vote for me this time, you'll never have to vote again. Yeah. Because we're going to change the system. Like, come on, what does that mean? Yeah. Like, let's really think about what does that mean. And I'm going to change the system. You'll never have to vote again. Like,
they may say, or he may say, like, oh, just saying stuff. You're taking this out of context. But like, I think the politician's responsibility to choose their words very wisely, because now
they're going to be in control of that.
Yeah, and it's not unfounded that someone like you would try to get away with that. You know.
So then maybe this is the election of all elections.
That's what they say, and if that's the case, I'm rolling for the black Indian lady.
And then you're thrown into that two-party system where it's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, every time. And like, I tell my friends, I used to have friends in the last election with Biden and Trump. No, it was with Trump and Hillary. Because I voted Jill Stein, Green Party. And I had friends saying I was part of the problem.
Because you thrown away a vote.
Because I threw away my vote by not applying to these two parties. I put my vote into this party. When realistically, there are like over 25 political parties in the United States. The Working Class Party, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party. There's even the Communist Party has somebody running for them theoretically. And I just find it insulting and such a shame that the country has bought into the illusion that there are two parties and that's all you're gonna get. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you need around 5% of the vote to get proper additional federal funding to help your party become even more prevalent within the eyes of the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And because no other third party has gained so much traction, we're just stuck in this system, which is essentially just feeding the same machine and not fundamentally changing things the way, in my opinion, how we should be progressing.
Yeah.
I'm not a status quo kind of guy. I'm like, how do we evolve the way science evolves, and we find better systems to categorize things in better ways to efficiently make fuel or whatever it is. How do we efficiently build our society and our cities to serve the people? And right now, it's serving the pockets of the wealthy.
Of a few individuals.
Yeah. So I've stirred the pot with my friends, being like, "Why would you throw your vote away?" But I feel, it's a bad taste in my mouth.
We've got a very similar system here, where it's very much two parties, and the media would like you to think there are two parties. However, I do feel in this country, we are a smaller country, and the demographic is tighter.
Right.
There isn't these massive land spreads.
Right.
But here, it was very close on the last election between 5 different parties.
Wow.
It was very close.
Yeah.
Okay, you did know one of the two were going to win, but maybe there was a chance of a coalition. There was a slight chance that might happen, where another party has to embrace another one to work.
Yeah. And I think
together. And we had that about 15 years ago here.
Also, I think when the citizens see so many citizens invested in someone outside that system, they think, they're a considerable candidate. If they got this much of the population on their side, and even if it's like 10% less than these two, there's clearly enough people who do think this candidate is a good idea and to move forward with. Maybe for future elections, I should consider this party because they tend to align more frequently with me than they do. And I think it's kind of the first wave of Normandy aspect of it, where you have to bite the bullet and do the hard thing, knowing your side's not going to win, to give the second wave a better shot of a future that they that looks like what they would aspire to be. And that's just my opinion. All of this is just my opinion.
Opinions and ideas, and we might be right, but we might be wrong.
We're only people just trying to make the best and trying to decipher what's the best way to navigate through this crazy time.
That's what I love about having these conversations, and even listening back I've gone back to some of the things that I said a year ago when I started this, and I'm like, I've evolved since then. I've changed. But isn't that the whole beauty of this thing called life?
I think so.
To change.
And I think by changing, that's when you get people closer and you can look at more people with more love. Like I've been active because I'm so excited by people, and the closer I can get to somebody and see their side and see their walk, and to just see it that way, I don't have to live it. I don't have to agree with it. But to be like, I see you as a person trying to make sense of this all. That's all we can really do. To be our best self to the neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Goes back to the fundamental principle of numerous religions. Just coming from a place of like, hey, love your fellow man. That's kind of the ticket here. That's what Jesus wanted you to do. In all that aspects.
Wonderful. I want to take this back away from politics a little bit.
Not a problem.
But it might bring us back into politics. You never know. But I wanted to go back to Edinburgh.
Yes.
So how was your experience at Edinburgh? Because I've heard lots of different things. I've heard of people. For me personally, I had a very joyful time there. I got everything I needed out of it. I was a solo individual out there. I wasn't doing a show, so I didn't have that.
No pressure on that.
No pressure on that. There was no pressure on what I did there. It was just get up every day and just make the best of the day. Carpe diem and all of that. Seize the day, and I just did that every day. I just seized it, and I had a wonderful experience. But I also heard from some people having a really difficult time there. I heard a lot about the big companies have kind of overtaken Edinburgh Fringe a bit these days. The big producers, the big stars, dragging away all of
the humble folk,
the public, and dragging away all of the attention because they've got the marketing power to do that. Whereas the people, you know, I saw you out there on the street trying to get people into your show.
Right.
But let's start with the positives.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy from the experience of being at the Edinburgh Fringe?
I had, as you said, moment to moment a joyous experience. It's my first time in the UK, and to be able to do theater that I helped shape and create with a crew that I love. We've been performing together for 3 years, so these guys are like family to me. And we brought a show that we're extremely proud of. It was nothing but joyous and exciting. The flyering, I did not mind. I'm a salesman on my back at home. I stand on the corner of the street helping people ask their utility company to go green, so their money doesn't go to oil and it goes to environmental companies. So flyering, that was just fun for me because now I can do that in costume, and now I can do that with more performative aspects. So I'm just acting off stage.
Yes.
So it was great fun for me. The city was beautiful. The Scottish food, surprisingly pretty good.
What did you enjoy?
I had this fried potato and jalapeno and cheese thing that blew my mind.
Did you have any haggis?
So I had some haggis.
Yeah.
The haggis pleasantly surprised me. The meat pies were great. I was eating fish and chips almost every day. Walking, because I'm a New Yorker, right? We walk and we eat a pizza. I was walking with the fish and chips on my way to the show. It was a great time. And I think even more tremendously was being around so many comedians of all kinds, stand-up, sketch, and improv, and circus. Being around so many theatrical artists in that vein, who have that bone in them, was just so exciting and so inspiring. One of my favorite shows was a free Fringe show, because Fringe has kind of a little sister of just free Fringe shows in pubs, and it was this improv sketch group called End of the World Cabaret, where they had these not pre-written but pre-prepared bits that would encourage the audience to play with them. So like one bit was these two ladies were dressed as like authoritative, policemen or soldiers, and they would, miming guns, they'd go, "Here are the new laws," and they would read like a paper with nothing on it, and they would look in the audience and look for something to spot and be like, "No shiny jewelry that makes it look like you're well-traveled. No red hats," or whatever, no curly hair, and each bit had different elements of how they played with the audience. And if the audience played and did the whole yes and thing and almost was a character in themselves, that wasn't breaking the show. That was you playing with them, and now the scene has even more fun and playtime in it because the audience is in on the bit and not just like a participant in the bit, like cutesy, like, "What's your name?" This. They'd be like, there was one bit where a guy was talking about how his father, all he does is eat meat, and he would go to sleep after he eats meat, and when he wakes up he wants the fish, and then he would like take the fish and go to an audience member and go, "Is this a big enough fish?" And then it's up to that audience member to decide, "Yeah, that's fine," or "You can find a bigger fish," and that puts the ball and the performers
completely
to take what they were given and go with it. And it was such fun, I thought, and it was totally free. To have this free, zero budget, all silly bits for the joy of the playtime with the audience was such high art for me, and because I don't know, I was just there to be pleasured by the theater and by sharing in the joy of being silly and funny and fun with the audience and the performers. So seeing a show like that, to seeing a musical that had a run the last Fringe and has come back this Fringe even more sharper with even more prop and set. I was so inspired by the caliber of art, regardless of the budget, just the heart in there, that I can't wait to go back home and get back into class
Talk to me a bit about that inspiration then that you're going to take back. So you're going to take that from Edinburgh and you're going to take that back to New York. What is that going to be? What is that going to look like?
So a specific aspect of it was I saw an actress who's just dynamite, and the whole crew is clowning. Not clown with makeup, but you can tell in their physicality and their character work that they come from clowning school and they know how to like bring it up. And after seeing their facial expressions and their body language and how they told the story just so much more boldly and physically, I wanted that for my instrument. You know, I know the subtleties to adjust the film and to be more truthful and naturalistic, but there's so much fun in allowing your body to be so much bolder and bigger, almost like in an amphitheater, to hit the back room to make sure everybody sees what you're doing and sees the expression of your face in an exaggerated way, especially for comedy. That's gonna even amp up your comedy even more. I can't wait to get back home and get myself in a clowning class and put on my blacks and go in, you know?
How it's giving you like a new, because it's done the same for me, like I've got a new energy coming away from there. I've got a new lease of life, a new drive forward, having experienced all, I got to see 23 shows in the week. And I got something from every single show. Yes, I saw some stuff that wasn't great.
Yeah,
some
right.
bad, some
not
bad
for you,
stuff, or not for me, or it needed a bit more work.
Yeah, or need some polishing. Yeah, sure.
Or just simply not my type of. I saw something that wasn't my type of comedy. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. I just was like.
You're like, okay. I saw this. You know?
I saw this. It was, I got to
gave it a shot.
Yeah, I gave it a try.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
There was only one thing that I didn't give a try. I walked out of one show, which was quite surprising, and I wouldn't have walked out of a show with a small audience. It was one of the big ones.
So you're like, they're not going to take a blow.
It was like 700 people in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
It was like one of the mainstream ones. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like the concept going in.
Okay.
But I wanted to challenge myself. It's been on here at the West End and it's toured the country. And when I went in and saw it there, I was like, this is my opportunity to see it. I'm going to see it. And
they're not going to be bothered.
And I was like, I watched it and went, I was right.
Yeah.
This isn't, I kind of don't agree with the concept. Mm-hmm. It was called Shitface Shakespeare. I don't know
do they get drunk and perform Shakespeare?
They get drunk. They spend the day getting drunk.
And then they're on stage. What was the play?
It was Much to Do About Nothing.
Oh my god.
But so you only one of the actors is drunk. The rest are doing the play as normal.
Right.
So they spent all day getting drunk, but it was like, okay, so if I'm gonna, all it was for me was a celebration of getting drunk. That's just all it was.
Yeah. Nothing higher than that.
There was nothing higher than that. Like, a celebration of getting drunk, and I can come to a pub and
watch a guy do his own soliloquy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was just like, there's really nothing for me here, and actually there's a bar that was doing live music around the corner, which
is a bit more appealing for you in the moment.
A bit more appealing. So I was like, do you know what? This is my time.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And especially 700 people, they're not going to feel.
They're not going to feel bad with me walking out. I did have a moment of like, can I do this? Because I've never done that before. Mm-hmm. But I was like, no, this is my time is valuable. I'm only here for a week. I'm trying to make the best.
They clearly got some success.
They've clearly got success behind them. There is a following. People do seem to enjoy that, watching people get drunk. But then I was questioning as well in my head. I was like, are they really drunk? And if they're not really drunk, they're quite bad actors. like they're not doing a very good job of being drunk. And I was just like, no,
my time could be used elsewhere.
Yeah, so I felt justified. And when I walked out, there was another couple that walked out as well.
Okay.
So at the same moment, so I was like,
but that's the fringe, It's everybody.
Yeah, it's an opportunity
a whole bunch of stuff
to experiment and to taste things.
Yeah.
To taste, to
argue. Certainly some people probably walked out of our show because we have a certain voice and a certain style of humor. It's not for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it doesn't have to be for everyone, does it? It doesn't, and we don't have to appreciate everything.
As a creative, and I tell this to my group, as long as we all want this one, as long as we think this is funny, we agree this is to the caliber we want it, and saying what we want to say, that should be good enough to go on stage. It's okay if not every joke is a hearty laugh. It's okay if it bombs or whatever. We gave it a go because we wanted it, and this is a show for us in our voice. We're not trying to give them what they want necessarily. it'd be great if they get what they want from us.
Yeah,
but
sure.
like we got jokes we want to say, we want concepts we want to try out and see if it works. And I think that's more important than knowing this bit works and then milking the bit for what it is.
I also, going back to we said like the beginning of this conversation about how when things change for us, and a big thing that changed for me is not worrying about the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Is especially with this, what I'm doing here is I'm getting something from this conversation.
Yeah.
Therefore, the conversation will be, it will continue going for as long as I kind of see myself as the audience now.
Yeah.
And if an audience enjoys that, great, wonderful. But the value to which this is giving me in my life is so great.
That's awesome.
That's kind of like all that matters, really. And if
bit.
other people come along for the ride, well, wonderful.
The amount of amazing musicians and bands that make music just for them, not expecting anything of it, and they just know like they want to make this sound, this is the sound they want to make, and it happens to resonate with the world, well, that's even awesome. But at the end of the day, it's about that artistic fulfillment, right? And I know there are bands and I know me as an artist, I wouldn't be fulfilled if I'm just pigeonholed into what's safe and what's comfortable, what I know works, and if I don't where my heart's not into it, I'm not gonna enjoy it. Like you said, you walked away when your heart wasn't in somewhere. There were roles that weren't gonna excite you. You gotta be so excited for your stuff because that's how you can apply your best stuff.
And that's how you're gonna drive forward with it. And you can't appease everyone. You can't please everyone. You can't.
Way.
And this goes back to politics. We had a politician in this country that lasted 50 days. I think it was 57 days somewhere.
Wow.
But it was very, very short.
Not even 2 months.
The Prime Minister of the country lasted for something like 50 days. But her big thing, my big take on it is she wanted to please everyone. She just wanted to be liked. And therefore she couldn't make any decisions. Therefore she couldn't drive anything forward.
Because something was going to upset
Because
one part of the demographic.
You can't do that. You can't try and please everyone. You can't try and keep it all nice and like fluffy for everyone. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do what's best for you and drive that forward. And if there is an audience to come along, wonderful.
Yeah.
If that audience is one other person, amazing.
Yeah.
If it is 100 other people, even better. Yeah, and you just go with the joy and the love that comes from them, the bigger audience.
Yes.
But if it is just yourself and you're getting love and enjoyment from it,
and you can look back and be like, you know what, this was good. I'm proud of this.
Yeah.
That's
a massive
currency in itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
It's been such a great conversation,
I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
I'd like to catch up with you again in the future. I'd like to find out more about your comedy sketch shows,
yes,
and I'm going to watch
please.
your acting career. I think this sounds like this is the beginning of something new for you. How do you feel?
I'm always excited, and the journey's so fun. And we talked about trust earlier. Mm-hmm. I trust the process. I trust that I'm an actor who does the right work, who cares about the important things, who's a good collaborator. And I know, just being, working from a child, is peaks and valleys. And there are years you don't work, and there are years that they're calling you, and you have to reject them. So I'm just always excited for the next thing, and then I'm always, excited to be ready for whoever wants me.
So one final last question then for you. So let's look to the future a little bit.
Sure.
Let's go into a time machine. Mm-hmm. Ready to dial it in. We're going to go 5 years from now. What does the dream look like?
The dream that I am juggling, making film. I would love to still be with my group, or if my group gets plucked and goes to a bigger organization like Saturday Night Live, or Dropout Humor, or have our own little thing on Netflix or Hulu. I would love our group to have an even bigger platform to do our stuff and entertain an even broader audience, because right now we just perform on stage, and again, I'm a film guy, so in the stuff I write, I typically write for film and then adapt it for the stage. So I hope to be in that element where we can make our sketches with the full budget and the full form to bring the audiences into those worlds right then and there, and then be doing my own individualistic things, working on the projects, making the movies, hopefully making my own movies. I'm a screenwriter as well on the side too. I'm a workaholic. I want to work. I hardly sleep, and I love the 12-hour shoot days. So I hope I'm in a place where I get to just be clocking in all the time and working with amazing collaborators and visionary artists.
It sounds like a fulfilling path to pursue.
Yeah.
For yourself individually. So what would you say to yourself? Yourself is there now, the other side of that camera. What would you say to yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now? Great work, but there's more to be done.
Nice.
I love you.
Yes, you have to give the love. We know that, don't we?
Yeah.
You make sure you give the love to
Yeah.
yourself along the journey.
Proud of you, but keep it up. There's more to do. There's more exciting stuff on the other side.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Sean.
Thank you,
Really
Martin.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you.
Thank you.
Anytime.
And if anyone has been watching or listening, we appreciate you for joining us for this
Thank you.
conversation.
If you'd like, you could follow me at Way of the Sean on Instagram. You could follow my group at I Mostly Blame Myself. We're also on YouTube, I Mostly Blame Myself. We have 800,000 subscribers. So we're trying to get that 1 million mark. And if you're not interested in that, it's all good. You'll see more of me soon anyway.
I'll add all the links in the comments below.
Cool, sounds
Brilliant.
good.
Thanks again.
Thank you
Sean.
so much.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Here we go.
Oh, so fun.
An epic conversation.